Hello everyone, Raven here. Now we get on to the last part of the series on the twists. This one is the one that I think everybody would probably think of first thing when they hear of twist. That is surprise ending. Now there's mainly three forms of this I want to talk about. In this, I'm going to obviously do some spoilers. So right now, let me just say up front what I'm going to use. I'm going to use 2 books, 1 movie. In the description, I'll go ahead and I'll put each one and a timestamp as to when I start talking about it, just so you can skip the ones you haven't seen and so that you know which ones you have seen and you can watch. So if you don't want spoilers, you can go down there, check where they are, and be ready. 3 I'm going to go through are Sphere, Pet Sematary, and The Game. A couple cases that were some better examples I could think of, but I chose the ones I did because I wanted to pick the ones that are probably a little more well known, with the exception of The Game. That one is just too good of an example. Before I get started, let me just give you some of the general things. First of all, the one biggest problem that can come up in a twist ending: do not make it the whole point. What I mean by that is not, don't make it the centerpiece, don't make it the focus, don't make it the whole point. If you are not careful, it can be to where you've got this idea for a twist, but you get so focused on that, nothing else is there. You lack on the characters, you lack on the story, you lack on the themes, and the problem is, if you don't do any of that, the twist doesn't carry the kick. There's not much to it. Best is when you can actually make it so that the twist has a major effect on your themes, on your characters, more than just the usual shock. And that makes it so that then you kind of have to develop the other sides of it in order to make that twist work. That's the first thing. Second thing, this is particularly on your rough draft. Do not focus solely on trying to hide it. Just tell the story. When you go back and you're doing the second, third draft, my personal suggestion, this is the way I like to do it: do not go in and try to remove all those hints. Instead, just make sure they're done in a way that's a little more subtle. And let me say, just because you have a twist doesn't mean it has to be secret. It can still have a point, still carry a kick, even if it's not too hard for the reader to put 2 and 2 together. Especially dependent on what kind of kick you're going to use. What is the twist? In some cases, it can be something where it's so much what your reader wants. Instead of it being them trying to solve it and them thinking, I wonder if this happens. Maybe this is what's going to happen. Maybe this is the... Instead of them thinking that way, when it's more of, oh, I hope this happens. Oh, it better go this way. Things like that. When they're thinking that way, when they're driven to that point where they really want it that bad, and then they get it, sometimes that can even have more of a impact than when they get something by surprise. Because then it's not just a matter of, whoa, can't believe that happened. It's more of, yes, it's doing it. Thank you. That's when it can be really good to actually make it not too hard to figure out what's going on, what's going to happen. So remember, the twist doesn't have to be a surprise. As long as you do it right, and it's in there for a reason, then it can work well. Biggest rule, and obviously anybody who's seen Misery knows about this rule. And I have seen occasional exceptions from movies, usually people haven't heard of, that break this rule, and it's It's so pathetic when they do. Do not twist it in a way that goes completely contrary to what's happened before. Do not let it contradict. Do not let it go illogical. It's got to fit right. That's not going to be a shocking twist. The real shock is when they realize it was there, they didn't notice it. That's what makes it so surprising. Make sure it still fits. Second rule, make sure this twist doesn't go down a silly road, okay? It's the best way to put it. If it goes in a direction where it just, are you kidding me? Where in the world did that come from? When it's so out of the clear blue, so extreme, and there's nothing to give you a clue of this. To give an example, I can't remember the name, but there's one movie, just was really bad. It was a murder mystery. Who did it? And what you find out at the end, it was a gorilla that escaped from a zoo. That's not the idea of a murder mystery. And how in the world could that be hard to solve? The point of that kind of thing is that you've got somebody who's clever enough to hide what they did, to make it hard. A monkey? Don't do that. Don't go so out there, so extreme, that you'll lose any sense, and it just makes everybody shake their head instead of dropping their jaw. So now I want to get into the three main forms. First one is the one that's probably the most subtle, in a sense. You can't really say any twist is subtle, but it's more of the whodunit, but not just whodunits. It goes beyond just that, and that's why I want to talk about sphere. The tricky part of this is, with this kind of twist, people are looking for it. People are watching for it. So when you give the hints, they're going to be looking. So you can't expect to do this in a way that's going to trick everyone. Somebody's going to probably figure it out. There's probably going to be a lot of people who figure it out. You can't expect to hide it well enough. But there are times it goes beyond just who done it and goes in a direction of how did it happen. In the case of sphere, to sum it up, what you have is you have this spacecraft that they find at the bottom of the ocean that's been there for hundreds of years. And so they send some scientists, different kinds, to go down there and look into it. They send biologists, chemists, different kinds of scientists, as well as your main character, who is a psychiatrist. Basically to help in whatever issues come up for the team. When they get down there, they find out this is not an alien craft. This is actually a man-made spacecraft. It apparently went into a black hole, was sent back so far, and crashed hundreds of years ago. However, as they go in, they find this massive alien artifact that is a sphere. That's all it is. What you eventually find out, after a lot of weird occurrences start happening, is that this sphere, you can enter it, and when you do, it gives you this ability where anything you imagine comes to be real. It's as though you are God. Your imagination can create. Now, in the movie, they directly talk about the mystery of it. In the book, the mystery is there very subtly, very under the surface, in the background. It's not put on you as directly, but it's there. And that is, how can this spacecraft be so unknown, not realize what's going to happen, be so oblivious, if in the past it had been discovered? you've got this major paradox going on within how this could come about with time travel. Now, I have to set aside my personal opinion on the whole concept of time travel. But one thing I'll say, this is one of the very, very, very few, okay, that if you just look past the whole concept of time travel, actually follows logically. Because what it does is at the end, you have three characters left. Of the three, one of them is this lady who, to explain, she's very much a tomboy in a sense. Pretty masculine in her form even. That's just the way she is. But after she's gone into this sphere, our main character, this is before he realizes exactly what's going on, starts noticing a difference in her. She's looking more feminine. She's looking more beautiful. She's changing. Now at the end, you've got her, your main character, and a third who are left. And having found out what was going on, having figured it all out, they are going to be questioned. And what they decide to do is to give it up. Sort of use their power to change their memory and also to give up the power. So what you find at the end, they're being questioned and they're talking as though it all happened this other way. Now, when you're reading this in this kind of story, you start wondering, but did they change what happened so that what they're saying now really happened? Or did what we already hear happen and it's only their memories that changed? And that kind of question can go through your mind. I had one friend who kind of took it further, and I think what he was thinking went a little illogical in my opinion. But either way, you've got an issue. How do you know what's real? How do you know what happened? How could it work that way? The very last scene is our main character walks out onto the bow of the ship, sees this other character, this lady out there, and the last lines are him looking at her and saying, "You look beautiful today." She says, "Thank you." And that kind of confirms they didn't change the past. It did happen because the differences are still there. Now that is the kind of twist that, like I said, more subtle, but what it does is instead of going and changing everything, it explains everything. It puts the pieces together and everything starts fitting in and you start knowing, okay, this is what's really happening. This is what is really going on. And it's something you've been trying to solve throughout the film, trying to put together. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But either way, you find the answer at the end. It gives it to you. In the case of Sphere, what I think is great about it is it makes it so you not only have the chance to figure it out, but also you still have to be thinking and paying attention to get the answer when it's given. And so there, you're not just putting in this twist for the sake of the twist. You're putting in the twist in a way that actually makes it fit into what the story's about, what the themes are. That's a great way to do it. Next one. This is the kind where it's a twist that is less of a twist and more of the unexpected. Where the end hits you with a kick of just, I never thought that would happen. Case I want to bring up is Pet Sematary for two reasons. One, it's the kind of thing you never think would happen. And two, it's the kind of thing you would never think somebody would want to put into their story. In case you haven't read it or seen it, I've only seen the first film, so I don't know about the later ones, but first adaptation of it did follow this, which was good. The way it works is this family lives out near this pretty busy. One day, pet gets hit by this truck, gets killed. It's so hard for the child. Their neighbor takes the father out to this pet cemetery, a place where they could bury the animal. They bury it there, and then later, when the boy and mother aren't going to know about it, he takes the dad out and shows him there's another cemetery. An old ancient Indian cemetery. And the concept is, in this cemetery, you bury it and it comes back to life. However, the way the pet comes back is very violent, very aggressive, and it just has to be killed. Then, later in the book, the boy gets hit, and the dad cannot bear it, and ends up getting driven to the point where he takes his boy and buries him in this ancient cemetery. And his boy comes back mad, insane, nuts. Eventually, the boy kills the mother. And again, the father takes his wife and buries her in that cemetery. And the final scene is when she comes back to the house and is going to kill him. Like I said, shocking because you never expect you're going to get that kind of ending. That's about as dark of an ending as you could possibly imagine. But the reason it fits, that's the point. You could also use, as an example, the same kind of thing. Ironically enough, another Stephen King story is the adaptation of The Mist. Same kind of thing. But the point of this kind of twist, this end, is all about the theme. That's the whole point of it. It's to show you something, to warn you of something, to keep you on guard about something, to let you know the dangers of letting something overcome you. And that's almost always what you got to do with these. If you're going to go and you're going to make this kind of shocking twist where it's just something so unexpected happens, there's got to be a point. There's got to be a reason. And if it's going to be that kind of shock, it usually isn't going to be the kind of thing where things turn out well for your character. Things are all right. No, it's not going to have anything to do with the character. It's probably not going to have anything to do with the story. That is a different kind of twist we'd already talked about. The only thing you got left are the themes. That's what really is going to drive this kind of twist most of the time. And so when you're going to do something like this kind of twist, you got to ask one question. What's my point? And you've got to make that point stick out. It's got to be sticking out like a sore thumb. The reason I say that is not because it's going to be hard for people to understand, hard for people to figure out. It's because it's going to be hard for people to look past how shocking and disturbing the ending is. They've got to look past the hard part of this. In Pet Sematary, the way it works is because throughout this story, particularly after they bury the pet, it's constant, why is he doing it again? When is he going to learn? What is he doing? You're thinking this from the start. Even when that pet comes back, you're wondering, why would the neighbor tell him when it happens like this? So you've already got that thought going through your head. So when at the end he does it, you're almost furious at this character for making the choice he made. But that is what can really make that point sink in and stick in your reader's mind. So that's how you'd use the second type. The third. This one's fun. The Game. If you have not seen The Game, this is a great film. It's with Michael Douglas. And he plays the part of this big businessman who's got millions of dollars, extremely rich. One thing you find out is that his father committed suicide when he was young and had a major impact on him. And you find him throughout this, you can just see he's very much separate from everyone else. It's like he avoids much as far as relationships. Where this story goes is his brother gives him this little brochure or something for his birthday of this game. A sort of real life role-playing game where this company is going to go and bring things into your life that'll create puzzles and things for you to fix. What they do with this film is very interesting. At first, you think it's just this game. Then you start to find there's something more to it. Then you start to suspect they are stealing his money. They were taking advantage. Then, the very end, you find out it wasn't that at all. And what they do is they drive him to a point where he commits suicide in very much the same way his dad did. But they save him. And what they do is, it's as though this whole thing was a mind game. Yet, its purpose wasn't just to be a game. It wasn't to steal. It was to get through. It was to open him up and help him get past what had been haunting him. And he finds out everybody that was around him knew about this. Everybody had been told. And they're all there at the end, ready to celebrate because they can see the change in him. Heard about this kind of twist is, particularly in this film, it's more than one, but it's not really about figuring out what's going on. You could say it is in a way, a little bit like Sphere, where you're just trying to figure out what's happening, what's going on, what is this really about? But no, this isn't really about the twist and its impact on you. This isn't really about the twist shocking you. What gets you in this film isn't the twist. What gets you in this film is how the twist affects the main character. It becomes not a change of the story, not a change of what's happening, but a change in him. That's so surprising. That's the kind of twist. That's the kicker. In these situations, what you've got it where the actual twist is secondary. Twist is no longer there solely to surprise. Yeah, it's nice when it also surprises, but that's not the purpose. That's not its primary reason for being there. Its main reason is because of what it does to the characters, what it does to their story. It's as though what normally would be in the background of this is in the foreground. That's what I love. When something can do that, it's got even more to it. Because in that, it's not just a matter of it sticks in your head because, wow, how did they pull that? How did that happen? How did they get that done? Which is neat. But it sticks, and it sticks even deeper. Because then it's like, wow, look what that did. Look what happened. How can something like that happen? And can get you more on a personal level. So when you do that kind, that's when you know you're not going to have to worry about keeping from going too far because you're not even trying to do that. That's not your goal. That's not your focus. That's not the point. But at the same time, you've also got to remember, watch. as I said at the start, is this the kind of story where you want this to be secret? Is it gonna mean more if the audience isn't ready? Or is it gonna mean more if they have an idea this is gonna happen and they really hope it does? The game does that to an extent. Not as fully as some, but it does do that to an extent. And it's the way it kind of does a bit of both that really made it hit me. So sometimes you can go a little bit of balance in between, but make sure you know what your goal is, what you're trying to do with it, and make sure that ending is not all there is. It's going to have nothing to it, no impact, nothing that sticks if everything else means nothing. Hope that's helpful. Hope you guys like this whole series on the twists. Any questions, anything more about it you'd want me to do, anything about, let me know. Be willing to do more on this topic. I love it. I think it's a really fun one to think about and consider. So let me know. Good luck with your writing. God bless.